Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me again today for this month's webinar. Today we are doing creative smartphone photography. So I am going to be sharing my iPad instead of working in Photoshop. So give me just a second to get that switched around. I move my keyboard, get this turned back on. And I gotta open this program. Okay, I already got that open, so I should be able to add this other little program, screen mirroring. There we go. It's connecting. Everything takes time. Yeah, I tested it before. There we go. And I keep wanting to grab my mouse, so I have to set that aside. I'm going to get the stylus back in my hand instead of that, so that we can work with the iPad. So as I go through, I will talk about which apps are available for Apple and Android. Some are Apple only, of course, and I'm sure there are some that are Android only. So if there's something that's not available on Android, I would, do some searching around, and I'm sure there are some that are very comparable to it. I do have a list with the actual icons of the program, because sometimes in the App Store they sound like the similar names, but it may not be the right product. So it's included in the notes, but I'll also post this page of the apps in Thursday's blog, so you can make sure you're downloading the right one if you're not sure. With that, I might as well just roll right into it. If you have questions, do type them into the chat box. Dave is here with me, and he'll be monitoring that as well, and I'll try and peek over at it. And let's get rolling. So like I said, I'm working my iPad, so it gives us a better screen, and it's easier to edit that way if you do have that option, but these can all be done on the phone. And quite often I'll do shots while I'm out in the field, especially like on our Barnes workshops. I'll take something on my phone and I'll do a quick edit and post it while we're out in the field. So one of my first app I'm going to use, and one of my favorites, is Snapseed. So I'm going to talk about where I'm pointing, because you can't obviously see where I'm touching with a stylus. So Snapseed's this one on the far right second row that has the leaf icon there. And we're going to go ahead and open that up. And this was an image I was working on before, but we're not going to use that one right now. So in the upper left, you're going to click on open. And then I'm going to open from device. And then I do have today's images in an album to make it simpler. And I'm going to start with this old shed and a fence. It was a very foggy morning, so I had this real pale sky, which I thought was kind of cool. And so we're going to go ahead and work with this one to start with. So I did not look, if you look at the bottom row of this, you've got looks, tools, and then the export. I did not use any of the looks. I'll click on it though. You can see there's portrait, there's some bright, morning ones, faded ones. Occasionally I'll use these, but today for this image, I'm just going to go right to tools, which is the center button. And then from here, no, I don't need Shutterfly right now. Thank you. We have a bunch of tools in here that we can use. Oh, and by the way, Snapseed is available for both iPhone and Android, and it's free, which is even better. And it doesn't have ads because it's free. It's just a really cool app. So in here, the one that I use the majority of the time is the tune image, which is the top left one. And from here, we'll click on adjust on the bottom row. And then we can adjust all of these different things. And all you need to do is scroll up to what you want to change. So we're going to start with brightness. And then you're just going to move. I'm using a stylus now, but you can do this with your finger on your phone as well. Just scroll across to the right or left, if you look at the very, very top, you'll see a blue bar changing with the number. So to the right is going to be adding the effect. And then if you went to the left, it would, in this case, darken because we would be lessening it. So I'm going to brighten this just a little bit, about 30. And then just go back to adjust, move up to the next item. Contrast that I added just a little bit. Then we'll go to saturation. Again, just a little bit. Ambience, I like to add a little bit there. Highlights, I brought up a little bit. Then shadows, actually I brought down just a teensy bit. And then warmth. I don't often change the warmth, but this one I really wanted to just make it a little bit warmer and give it that morning glow. So once we're done with this, if we like all of those effects, in the lower right, you've got a check mark, and that will just accept that function. Now, if you wanted to, you could go into our tools again. And here I'm going to use Glamour Glow. And I like to do this on, it looks really good on landscapes, as long as you keep it subtle. So this one's on the top row far right. Looks like the little diamond. And there are some presets, and usually I work with number 1 or 2. And I'll go to the extreme just so you can kind of see what it does. It does also change the color in some of them. And it gives it just, I don't know, it gives it just a pleasing little bit of a glow. So I'm going to use just number 1, and you can go in and change the amount of the glow, saturation, and warmth as well on here if you want to. And then I'll hit the check mark. And then we're going to go back into tools, and I'm going to go to details, which is the second from the left. And this is just like details in Topaz or Lumina or anything else. It's structure and sharpening. So I'm going to move my structure about 20. And it's the only one I'm going to change here. And I'm going to hit the check mark. And then I want to export this. So I'm going to hit the export in the lower right. And then I always save a copy, so it does not save over my original. And that saves it, and that will go back to your camera roll. It won't go back to the folder that I took this from, but it will go to your camera roll. So I'm going to go ahead and, I think we have one question. So how do you save your original image? The original just stays there in your file, or if it was in the camera roll, because I saved it as a copy, it's just going to save it as a separate file. So I'll show you that. 1 second. So if I go into my photos, here's my recents, and this is the one I just saved. My original would be, if I go to my album, this is my original still here, down in the middle here. And then I also still have that in my original full, photo album as well. So it does not save over your original, as long as you save it as a copy. So next we're going to go into retouch. And retouch is amazing for getting rid of power lines and cloning things out. This works terrific. There are tutorials here if you want to click on that button. I'm going to go to albums. And then I can go right into my recents, which is this one right here. And this one we just edited. And you can see there's some very faint power lines just above the grass line there. So this one's a little tricky because they are so faint. So on the very bottom, you've got object removal, quick repair, line removal, and clone stamp. For this, I'm going to use line removal. And then you have the option of line removal, where it will look for the whole line, or segment remover. So because this was faint when I was testing this before, it worked better with the segment remover. We're going to do it like a little bit at a time. So I'm going to zoom in and you can see the line here. And the way this works, I'm going to kind of start in the middle and just kind of draw along it. And in the upper left, it shows you like a zoomed in version. You don't have to draw exactly on the line. You'll see as I let the stylus or your finger up, it turns green briefly, and then it like looks for that line right near where you're drawing. So you don't have to even be super accurate. It will do a really good job by itself. And then as you get close to things, you just have to, you'll see that it kind of jumped down and found the grass. So I'm going to undo that last stroke. And then move over. And sometimes when you get close to things, when they're overlapping like this, you might be better with the clone tool. But we're going to try it with this and see how it goes. So I wanted to grab the fence line there. So I think we may have to do some cloning in there. But when you have one that's not near anything, this thing just zips right through. So like I said, you can, zooming in will also help a little bit because it lets it find things a little better. So then if you have an area like this where it's not doing a great job, we're going to arrow back. We can also try quick repair, which is like a healing brush. And that works a little bit better on an area like that. So let's come over by this fence here and we'll try that. So that definitely works better when you're close to things like that. So that's another option. And I don't like that grass there, so I'm going to heal that as well. Then you come across. We have some line over here. I'll use that near the fence, then I'll switch back to my line removal. And we'll do it in segments. And it's just like with the regular healing brush, sometimes you have to go over things twice, but this does a really, really great job. I like this one a lot. So with most of these different apps, the icon to save something, and you can see this in the upper right-hand corner, it's like a square with an arrow. And I'm going to click on there. And then I'm going to also save a copy. You have the option of modifying original, but of course, you know me and I never do that. And you can also do open in other things or copy it to a clipboard. I usually just save a copy. You can always delete your copies later on. And then say done. And most of these programs don't have like a close button. You can you would just go back to the home button to open your next image. I think we have a does the file stay in RAW after Snapseed edits if it was captured in RAW? No, it would not. Just like with Photoshop, it would become in the phone, I think they usually just become a JPEG. I haven't really done a lot of shooting in RAW on my phone. I have an 8 Plus, I have an older iPhone, but I know it will nothing will ever stay in a RAW file, a RAW format, because that's just not how they work. That's just a capturing format. So you might have an option of saving it as a TIFF, but I don't believe so. I don't think phones usually do that. But good question. Thank you. Alrighty, so from here, I am going to save a copy. Next, we're going to go into Stackables. And I just had somebody message it before we started that she couldn't find this in the App Store. And I just looked really quick and I couldn't either. So I'm going to have to do some more research and see if this one is still available, because it's a pretty cool program. And this one, let's see, did we talk about, let's see, Retouch is also Android and Apple, and that one is $1.99. This one I didn't even added to my list because I switched out this one. I switched another program out and put this one in. So I would have to check on the price on that. And I'm not sure if that one is an Android. The rest I have on my list. I'm gonna have to update that. So in this one, to choose an image, it's on the right center here. Just choose that icon. Again, you can either go to your photos or to albums. So I'm going to go to recent because that's where it would have saved this one again that we just took the lines out of. And from here, I'm not going to crop anything. So here you can see this one does give you the option of a JPEG, a PNG, or a TIFF, which is unusual. I think it's the only program I have that I've seen that on. Somebody just said it's not available anymore, but you can still use it if you don't update your operating system. Huh. Well, at some point, I guess then it won't work next time they update our operating systems. This one is Stackables. So I'm gonna have to look and see what else I can find that's similar. I do have a couple others that kind of do the same type of thing, so we'll be talking about that as we go as well. There's one Mextures that I'm going to be using that's very similar. So let's go ahead and we'll finish this anyway. So I usually just save as JPEGs in my here, when I'm on the iPad or phone. So I'm going to select that image, and this one is cool because it does have layers, and you can add layers and you can add different textures and things that come with the program. So it defaults to layer 1. And I'm going to choose, you can see there's a whole bunch of textures in here. And there's one called, it's down a ways. Okay, where is it? You can see there's a lot in here. It's a really cool program. It's too bad I don't have it anymore. Evening Veil is the one I wanted. And where this square down here that says overlay, that lets you change your blending modes. So just like we do in the computer. So I am going to use the blending mode of darken to darken that just a little bit. And then this slider at the bottom controls the opacity. So then I'm going to hit this plus sign at the bottom to add another layer. And it defaults back to the textures. But you can also change that. Let's see, I clicked the plus sign, add layer. The fourth icon up at the top are the different icons. Right now we're on the checkerboard, which is textures. And then there are different other presets. I'm going to use the gradient. And the one that I chose was Caribbean.
Susan Hayward just said it's Stackables, and I'll call formulas photo lab effects.
Okay. Somebody just posted, Susan. Hey, thank you, Susan. Stackables is now an app called Formulas Photo Lab Effects. So I'll have to look that up, and then I'll put that in the blog for you guys as well. So I'm going to use the Caribbean overlay. I'm going to change that to soft light, and the opacity is like 54, 55. And then that would be all I wanted to do to this particular image. Now they do have formulas, which are like presets, and that's the one up at the top that looks like a little beaker. The thing is, if you're going to try a formula, you want to do that first because that will cancel everything I just did. So if you went back, you would see there are different types of things in here. Some are a little more dramatic than others, but they're different presets that are in here. So then to export, again, it would be the top right square, which I won't do since I just changed everything and I have it saved. But you would just hit that and you can save it back to your camera roll, or you could go directly to post-process or to social media or email or other apps. So I'm just going to cancel that one. So that was that particular image. Dave said he found a link for that app. So we'll check that out. Alrighty, so next we're going to start in Snapseed again. And I'm going to go to that leaf image. Oops, back here. And this was just a leaf at a local park. I was out on one of the Barnes workshops. I just picked it up from the ground and put it on this like dirty picnic table. It was one of those plastic type picnic tables. But I thought we could do some cool stuff with this. So this one I do want to crop first. So I'm going to go into my tools, click on the crop. And you can do it, to a certain dimension if you wish. I'm just going to do it freehand. I like to crop to an image, not necessarily to a size unless I know I'm printing it. So I'm going to do almost a square here. And then I'm going to fix that little corner in a second. So I'll click that. And then I'm going to click on tools. And there is a healing brush in here. I don't generally do this here, but for this little thing, we're just going to easily do that in the corner. I like retouch for most of that kind of stuff. Excuse me. So we've cropped that, we've healed it. So next we'll go to our tune. And we're going to do brightness. Oops, the other way. Contrast. Ambience. Highlights. And like anything, it's all trial and error. That's going to be, different settings depending on your image and the look that you're going for. And accept that. We're going to export, save a copy. Next, we're going to go to what is probably my favorite app. And it would be because it has textures. And this is called Distressed Effects. And you'll see on the third row on the left, I've got two things that say Distressed Effects. The one that's got the green bird is the original Distressed Effects. The one to the left with the multicolors is Distressed Effects Plus. The difference is the original one, which is still selling. The app itself sells for $1.99, and this is Apple only. Sells for $1.99, and then there are additional texture and overlay and bird packs that you can purchase for 99 cents each. Distressed Effects Plus, which I'll open up, sells for $11.99, but you get all of the packs that are currently available, which are 27 different textures, overlays, and birds and trees. And anything she adds in the future. So if you love this app as much as I do, it's definitely worth the money because you're getting $27 worth of textures included in that 12 bucks. So this is just the default image that opens up in the program. So in the upper left, you'll hit the little camera and you can either take a photo with it, which I always use my, camera that is in the phone. And then we're going to choose our image. Go to my albums, my recents, because we're using this leaf. And I'm not going to crop it, which you can do here. You can crop or rotate. Hit the check mark. So when you're in here, at the bottom, you'll see two rows of textures. The top row are more like color overlays. And the bottom are the more textured textures. And you can independently change blending modes and opacities for each of these. So on the top row, I am going to select one called, I'm going to use, these are the original ones that come in when you first open it. I'm going to call this one called Coal. You'll see the blend mode shows up once you select it. To change that, you would just click in the middle And you don't get as many blending modes in here, but these are the ones you generally use most with textures. So she has it set to default to the one that she thinks will work best. Cheryl Tarrant is the girl who created this. She was supposed to be at our live conference we were supposed to have in October, but of course that didn't happen. So I will have her for one of our future virtual conferences. And she's also in Tennessee. So we use this at multiply. Now to change the opacity of that, just above that row where it has the little slider icon on the far right, when you click that, this right here lets you control the opacity. So I'm going to go to about 50% here. Now the sliders around the photo, the one on the left is brightness, the one on the bottom is saturation, and the one on the right is contrast. That doesn't just control the texture, that controls the whole image. So I tend to not use those a whole lot here because if I, brighten something, it's going to brighten everything, not just that texture. So unless you're like at the end of something and you want to add a little more saturation or contrast overall, then that's when I would use those. And then you just hit the X to close that bar. And on our bottom row, I'm going to use a different group than this original one. So if you come all the way over to the right, you'll see a switch pack, and that's on both of these. So click on here, and this opens up the pack picker. So if you purchase this one, that is the plus version, the first time that you come in here, where these check marks are on each pack, it would show $0. So you would just have to select the pack and download it, but it would not cost you anything because you've already purchased the plus version. If you purchase the original version, then it would show like 99 cents and you would have to purchase it. And just the first time you do have to like download it to your phone or iPad. And all of these programs, if you have both an iPhone and an iPad, when you load it on one, it automatically shows up on the other one. So which is very cool. Okay, so from here, I'm going to go to Painter's Palette. And you'll see it. I have a different row of textures here at the bottom. And I'm going to use the one called Unwritten. And I leave that at overlay, and I'm going to choose the opacity. I'm going to make that, it doesn't give you numbers, so it's at about 75% there. And then X that. Now I wanted to add another texture. Like, that's a surprise, right? Like, I never do that anytime. So because you only have these two rows, the way that you can do that, and this is only in this plus version, if you just press your finger or a stylus in the middle of the image, you'll get this pop up and it will let you flatten the image. So now this is my original image. So now I can add another overlay and another texture if I want to. So I'm going to change this bottom row to the vintage collection. And I'm going to use the one called Herp. I'm going to change my blending mode to multiply. And then change my opacity down to about 30–35%. Now, if you wanted to, and the way you would do this in the original program would be to save it and then bring that saved image in as your new one. So this is something she did recently. This also has masking in this version, which it did not have in the original. And to mask something, since I just added this other texture, above the top row here, the one that looks like an eraser, you can now just take your finger or your stylus, and it's going to look white until I'm done doing it. And I'll do this real quickly. And it has now erased the texture off of that part of the leaf. And I'm just going to X that to get rid of it because I want it back. And then the last thing I do to my images, and I didn't do it on the first one for time, I'm just going to do it once, is I like to add my watermark. So let's first save this one. So I'm going to hit that up arrow, and then you hit the down arrow, and it is saved. You can share it to their Instagram page if you wish. So let's see, I think we have a question. Jean loves distressed effects. How do you know if more packs become available? When you, I think, I'm trying to remember if I got an email or if when I came in here. I think when you open the app, it'll tell you when you go to that, you know, to go to change it, you would see them in this list if there was something new. And we're going to use this again, so I'm going to show you some of the other stuff in here, but it would show another new one in here. So then you could just download it if you already have the whole thing. And she also has a Facebook page, so she announces like on there if something new comes out. So now I want to do my watermark. And I like to use the program. There are several that do watermarks, but I found this one to be the easiest for me, and I use this all the time. This one called Image Blender, right below my distressed effects. And this does a lot more than just add watermarks. It's made to merge images, two images together. So it can be, you can do like a double exposure effect. You can have an image and add a texture. You can do all kinds of things. So here on the bottom row, you can see it just popped up on the left. This gray square says background, and on the right, it says foreground. So I'm going to click that gray square on the left, and I'm going to go to my photos, and I'm going to go to this last one we just saved. So that's now my background image. And then I'm going to click on the right-hand side, go to my photos, and I have this saved in my other class. I'm going to just select my logo, and this is a PNG file, so it's got a transparent background. Now, obviously, that's much too big. So up at the top, I'm going to hit this little like plus sign with the arrows, and then I'm just going to pinch and reduce it to the size I want. You can also rotate it if you wanted to. Then put it in position. Once I have it in position, you're going to say save, and that's just saving that size. And this slider between the foreground and background controls the opacity of that top layer. You can see as I move it to the right, it becomes more opaque. And that's it. And then I'm going to go in and save that and save to photos. You can flatten it if you wanted to. Yes, I'm going to have it start over, so when I open it, it just has a blank screen. If there was a thing there to flatten it, you could flatten that, and that would become your background, and then you could add another image on the right hand side, so you could layer several textures there if you wanted to as well. And this one is Apple only, and this one sells for $3.99. This one was, I'm sorry, that was Image Blender. Mixtures is Apple only, and it's only $1.99. It's Mixtures, like textures, but with an M. So next, can you change the color of the watermark? Not there. I have my watermark is white lettering with a black stroke around it, and the reason I've designed it that way is so it works on every color image. So if my image is a lighter color, use the black stroke will make it stand out. If it's a dark color image, then you'll see the white lettering more than the stroke. I don't like having to change it all the time. I know some people have, use a brush, but then you have to decide, do I want it white? Do I want it black? Do I want it gray? I find this to work with everything between having the white with the black stroke and then adjusting the opacity. I can make it work on any image. I've been doing that for years, even with my old logo. I had it set up that way. Good question. Okay, So we're going to go back to our retouch for a second. How are we doing on time? Oof. I got so much I want to show you. All right, so we're going to go into our albums and go to my webinar one. I'm going to use this truck. Okay, so I'm going to do some creative stuff with this, and I wasn't too worried about the stuff on the left because I know I'm going to do some border work and all, but this white like tube that was sitting between the two trucks in the background, I really didn't like. So for this, I'm going to use the clone stamp. And it's very similar to Photoshop, where you're going to choose a spot that you want it to start copying from, because it's like a copy and a paste. And then you're going to brush where you want it to replace. And this works best if you do it without lifting your stylus or your finger, because that way it doesn't overlap it so much. It will keep going like around that whole area until you need to get to a different spot. And I'm not doing a great job because I just cut the mirror off, but I just wanted you to see how it worked. It's really a pretty simple process. And if you wanted to, you could, move it over here if you wanted to try and paint out some of this. And you could zoom in to see it better. Like I said, I'm doing this quick because I have lots of stuff I want to show you. So if you wanted to, you could try to get rid of that too. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just save this. And we're done here. And next I want to use this one called Pixlr. It's Pixlr. This is for both Apple and Android. And it's free with ads, or it's $11.99 a year for premium. So I will live with the ads because I don't use it enough to want the premium version of this one. So on the bottom we have, I'm sorry, dear. Question. How did you get the watermark image onto your phone? It's just a PNG file, so I just emailed it to myself, then downloaded it to my phone and saved it into my photos in my phone. Thank you. I also have a really cool little thing. It's a flash drive that has a USB port on one end and an Apple plug on the other end. So what I usually do with this is I'm usually copying things like from my iPad, because I do I create textures and things on it. I can plug this into my iPad, copy photos or whatever to this, and then plug this little thing into my computer, which is a PC, and download them without having to email them to myself. So I'll add that to the blog as well. It's a pretty handy little tool. Yeah, I forget. I don't know what it's called. It's by PNY. I forget what the technical term is. It's a fancy flash drive. So yeah, it's a dongle. It's a whatever. It works. All right. So in here we have 5 different things at the bottom. We have the suitcase are tools. Then we have brushes. The star is special effects. And this opens to the default set. So if you click, if you see all these squares, you see, and then there's a row of circles below it, that will change the group of textures or effects that are there. So I'm actually going to use the one that's called, what am I using? Vintage. It's this last one. And I'm going to choose the one called Doris. So that was the effect I chose. And then again, you can control opacities with the slider at the bottom. I'm going to click the check mark, and then the 4th icon is frames. And there's also tons of circles of different frames in here. So in this default set, there is one called grunge that I'm going to use. And then Click that check mark. And then once you're done with that, and you could do tons of things in here. Like I said, there's lots of different, you can add type with this last icon if you wanted to start typing. I'm just gonna X out and we're going to say done. And then now you got to wait for the ad. This is why some people pay for it, but we will, we've got, let's get rid of that. There we go. That is why you pay for some apps, but we're going to say save image. It's saved to the camera roll. And then we can close out of here. Just what we wanted to do, play games. And then you can go back to the home if you wanted to. So that's that one. And next, I'm trying to go quickly because it's almost 1/4 already. Next, we're going to do, I'm going to open up my photos. And you can also, besides using Snapseed, sometimes I will just use the native editor in here, which also does a great job. And I'm going to show you that real quick. So let me go to my albums. I'm going to click this one of these Coke bottles. So once you open an image, you'll see up in the upper right, and of course these are sometimes in different places on, oh, you're seeing the whole photo. Well, there is, it says edit in the upper right of my iPad screen. And then once you get in here, over on the right, you have a bunch of different controls. So this little wand, I usually click that first, and that's an auto thing. And then I go in and tweak it from there. So you just scroll up to, we have exposure. And then you use this little wheel here and it shows you the number. So I'm going to reduce the exposure a little bit. And we have brilliance. We're going to take that to about 40. Highlights. We go minus there. We have shadows. We do vibrance. There. Then we have sharpness. And we have definition. And noise reduction. And then you're just going to, now with this one, this does save over your original. However, you can revert it back to your original. So if I say done, when I'm in here, if you go back to your edit, you can revert back. And I got to remember where that is. Oh, right up here on top, it says revert because I've done the editing. You would hit revert and that would let you edit, go back to your original if you want to start over. So we're going to keep that one. And next we're going to use one that's called Sketchmaster. This is Apple only and it is free. It does not have ads or not obtrusive ones if it does. And this one I would like to do some cool sketch effects, but I found some other neat effects in here when I was playing around with this image. So I'm going to click the one that looks like the Polaroid photo. And we're going to go to my recents. Oops, no, I have to go back over here because I did, because this did save over my original. So where's my bottles? All right. And then this wand at the top has all of these different presets down here. There are tons and tons. So there's all different, you know, some are in color, some are in black and white, some are kind of cool, some are kind of but like with any program in its presets. But all the way over here, I found this one called Gloom, which I thought, that's rather interesting. So I'm going to click this check mark to accept that. And then in, let's see, check mark in the lower right, I'm going to click on this pencil. And this will give you a whole slew of other things you can do. So under effects, there are more presets. And there is one called Sentosa. And I thought that was kind of a real dark, moody, effective kind of a thing. So I'm going to do that and then apply that. And then I'm going to go to the frames and I chose this one called Grit and apply that. Then I'm done. And then again, I'm going to save it and you can choose the resolution. I always save it the highest one and save image. Okay. And that's that one. So there's just the possibilities are endless, just like when we're working with textures and other things. So this last one, I'm going to go into mixtures. So this one is probably the closest thing to Stackables that I have, since we couldn't find that one. I'll see if I can find the other version of it. This also lets you work in layers, which is very cool. So I'm going to choose library. And then I'm going to go to my webinar folder. I'm going to choose this old remnants of a factory nearby. I'm going to say use because I'm not cropping it. And we're going to use uncropped. So here you have at the bottom, there are two things. There are textures and formulas. Again, if you want to try formulas, I would do that first, because if you do that after you do textures, it's going to replace them. But I'm going to use textures for this project. And I'm going to select the grunge group, surprise. I'm going to use the one called Concrete Jungle. And if you click on the double circles over here on the left above the colored textures, that will open the blending modes. And I'm going to use multiply, hit the check mark. And then again, if you want to change opacities, oh, not that one. The opacity is, oh, the slider over here on the right. They put everything in different places on all of these, you got to remember. So that's the slider for opacity for that texture. And then I'm going to click on the plus sign in the center just above the textures, and that will let me add another layer. And I'm going to open the vintage gradients. And I use the one that was called Okie Finoki. And I'm going to change my opacity. And you can see the number is popping up right above that plus sign as I move that. And then I'm going to hit the plus sign again and use grit and grain. And I use this is to add some cool like scratches and dust type effects. Make my opacity about 75 on that. And then one more. I'm going to go to grunge again and used one called binding. I'm going to change this blending mode to multiply. And then my opacity to about 30. And there you have it. And let me hit save on here and then save image. And we have some questions. Can all these saved files be transferred to a desktop? Yes, they can. Again, that's why I like this little transferable thing that I have, you know, with the flash drive, so I can plug it into my iPad or my phone. Or if you're only doing an image or two, just email it to yourself and then you can download it to your computer. So let's see, is there anything else? Abby said I lost the connection for a bit. Not sure if Hazel mentioned Kaleidocam at all. I have not used that one. I do have a kaleidoscope one. I don't know if it's that one. The chat stuff, I'll repost the most of the questions that are pertinent. I will put in the blog like I usually do on Thursday, along with the replay link, which you will also get your link from the Zoom system tomorrow. I'll get it onto the YouTube channel in the morning. All right, now we're going to go to a group of apps. And this company is called JixiPix. I have a folder of these up here in the upper right. It's JixiPix. If you're part of our last February's virtual conference, they gave all of our people a free copy of Grunge-tastic for desktop. Their apps are, almost all of them are both Android and Apple. I think there's like 2 that are not available on Android. I've got, as you can see, like 14 of them. Again, they do sell all of these and more for desktop. I am an affiliate for them, so I'll post that link in the follow-up as well. They're just really, really cool, and they all have the same interface. So once you kind of get the hang of one, you'll see they all work pretty much the same way. Most of the online ones, most of them are $1.99. There's like 2 or 3 that are $2.99. The key here, and I don't know if they're going to do this year, but the last 2 Decembers prior to Christmas, they did 12 days of Christmas. And it was a combination of sales on their online stuff, you know, the desktop stuff, but they also gave away some of their phone apps for free. So that's why I have so many of these, because most of these I did not purchase. I got a whole bunch of these for free. And if you have any of their desktop stuff, you'll be in their email list, and you'll also get notifications of things. In my blog on Thursday, I just got the email today. They're also doing a Black Friday 45% off sale on their desktop stuff. So I'll have that posted as well with my link as well. So let's get into this one. So I'm going to start with my favorite one is Grunge-tastic. Surprise. Jim just posted Grunge-tastic is a great desktop app. Yep, this is the one, like I said, that we got from the conference that they gave everybody. And I'm going to see if they'll do something for us for our next one in February. So when you open these, they look all pretty much the same. On the bottom, it's your get photo if you want to crop, info on the app, saving and sharing. And there'll be more once we get in here. So I'm going to click on my get photo, go to my album, and I'm going to use this one. And it just defaults to a random preset when you open it. But once it opens the photo, you'll see another white bar at the bottom with the home key, a star, and some other icons. The star one is going to show you all of the presets. And each app has different categories. So this one's got quite a few. There's 3, 4, 7 different categories here: pop grunge, bleached grunge, distressed, gritty, worn pop. Probably distressed, grunge, and gritty are my ones I use most often. So for this one, I'm going to go to the grunge category. And it's like anything, just start clicking, see what you like, see what looks good on your image. This one I used Grunge 3, although I also liked that one and that one. But we're going to go with my first choice. I kind of like, you know, the old faded look goes with these older properties. And then you can click these other icons to see what else you can change. So the one that looks like a painter's palette lets you change the tone of this image. So if I wanted to choose a different color. I could go with a darker color and it would change that tone. The black threshold, enhancing the contrast. And then the next two show you the grunge texture that's applied. You can change the opacity of that. You can change the color of it. And that would be the second texture. And then the last one is the edge texture that's on here. So again, you can, if you don't want it to be so dark, you can make it less bold if you wished. You could also click on here and change it to a different texture. You can see some are way wider and more dramatic than others, but you can completely customize these different presets as well. The fun thing in here, and this is something like cool to do when you're sitting, watching TV or something. If you look at the upper right, there's like a pair of dice, and that's like just hit it and it will randomly choose a preset for you. And you can just keep clicking that and it will just keep changing it. The thing is, if you find something you like, you want to save it because you'll probably never get back to that same one or be able to figure out which one it's used. So that's kind of a fun thing to do as well. And then once you have, whatever you wanted to do and you're done, hit that little home icon, and then that's where you'll do your save, or you can share it directly from there. Let's see if we have a question. I'm trying to edit phone images with these apps. Do you think they work better to do on an iPad or a phone, or no difference? Well, it's always easier, especially if you're doing like healing and cloning and things like that on an iPad, because you can, just work with it a little better with the bigger screen. But I routinely do these, like this one, when I first edited it, I was out in the field. This is one of the stops on our Barnes workshop. And I, quickly did an edit right there in the field and posted it to Facebook, added my watermark to it in Image Blender, and went from there. So this one, I'm going to show you a couple of these real quick. I got two more things. I'm going to go a couple minutes over, so hang in there. I'm going to open my photo and we'll go over here, webinar, old house. I'm going to click on my star. So this was one I also would have taken this first into retouch and got rid of the barbed wire there and the telephone pole up in the back. So we're going to go to vintage scene. We're going to go into vintage number 9. That was the one I wanted. No, that's not the one I wanted. Faded time. Number 9. That's the one I wanted. And then I'm going to go to here, and you can control, the age of the image, the color, the image strength. So again, you can play around to kind of tune these. You can bring back a little bit more of the image, change the paper age, and then go ahead and save that. So that's another fun one to work with. And then the last one I want to show you real quick. There's the other one I sometimes use is Impresso, but we don't have a lot of time left. So I'm going to go to the black and white one. There was a black and white app that I really loved that was called Carbon. And it's still available. However, when I first got it, it should, it has some free things you can try, but you're limited. And then to purchase it was $19.99. I was like, well, I really like it had a lot of stuff in it. I said, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. Well, it wasn't $19.99 forever. That was per year, because I got the renewal thing pop up and now it's $24.99. I'm like, no, I don't use it enough to spend that on an app. So JixiPix does have this one called Dramatic Black and White. And it's not as detailed as that one. And there are other black and white ones as well. So definitely look around to find something that works for you. But I think this one is really good. And for the price, you can't beat it. So this one, I'm going to go to my star. I chose black and white. And I really like just number 1, just the basic one. And then I click the adjustments, and you can, soften, you can sharpen. I did about there. Darken, brighten. Brightened it a little bit. And this was a foggy morning as well. And then you can, if you click on this portrait one, you can also control the individual colors. Your saturations in here, and the strength of the black and white, the green strength. So there's lots of things you can do. And then this oval shape, you can, draw it. That's controlling this kind of vignette on the border. So you can adjust that as well. If you click on here, it's like what they call a spotlight, and you can pull that back as well. But it lets you, if you really wanted to, spotlight an image and then just add a little bit of a vignette, you can do that as well. And then you'd be done. So let me stop sharing my iPad. I'm going to put one thing up here on the computer. And this is, I'm going to check for some last questions here. So I did put a bunch of stuff in today's blog of my own products, as well as some of my affiliates who are everybody's having a sale, of course. And I promised in Sunday's blog that the sale would give away my age, since my birthday was Sunday. And so you get 62% off any textures not already on sale. So that's your hint. And that's good through Monday. I just posted 2 new texture sets today. There's also, you can get $50 if you book a workshop for next year, one of our Barnes and Backwards workshops, for either the spring or fall. You can, what else do I have in here? There's tons of stuff, tons and tons of stuff, and more that will be coming on Thursday as well. Okay, so can the suggestions made by the delegates be added to the blog? Questions? Yes, I'm going to post the questions, Sonia. Let's see. And I think that's most of the actual questions. Thank you for all the kind words. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. And I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We're spending the day with friends for dinner, and then we're going to head to North Carolina for a few days on Sunday. So yes, Thursday is Thanksgiving, but I will still do the blog. I will have it mostly done by the end of tomorrow, so I don't have to do too much on Thursday. But it will be out there anyway. So I think that covers it all for now. And I thank you all again for participating as always. I greatly appreciate you guys, and I'm very thankful. Have a wonderful holiday, and we will talk to y'all very soon. Thanks, guys.